Do you ever find yourself in a selling situation and you think all signals are a go, but then at the end they say something like, I've got to think about it, or the timing isn't right. Can you reach back out in 5-6 months? So often we're looking for buying signals that really weren't there. Yet prospects are consistently giving us buying signals if they're in the right place. So in this video, I'm going to show you 7 sales buying signals to look for. Check it out. Number 1, real challenges. So most salespeople are actually looking for interest in the product or service, but that's actually not a great buying signal. What's a great buying signal is that the prospect has real challenges that, of course, you can solve. That's the ultimate buying signal. Because if they've got legitimate challenges in the domains that you help them with, then now you've got someone who really has a legitimate need for your offering. So just take an example of a marketing service that you offer. Let's just pretend you do marketing services. We don't want to find people that are interested in your marketing services. What we want to find are people that have challenges around the marketing of their business. They're not getting enough leads, or sales are down. And that's the ideal type of prospect to look for. That's the sales buying signal that we want to look for, is the real challenges that you specifically solve. Number 2, did their homework. Have you ever gotten on a call with a prospect and they say something like, what exactly do you do again, and who are you? That's not a good buying signal. Now, it doesn't mean that the sale is lost, but it's also not a good buying signal. What we want is to identify prospects that really demonstrated that they found out who we are. They did a little research on our organization before they got on the call, or they know something about us, or they checked out our LinkedIn profile. That's a really good buying signal. Now again, the absence of that doesn't mean that you disqualify them and you don't talk to them, but if they legitimately did their homework, or watched a video on your website, or they did something that shows that they're actually interested, that is a really good sales buying signal. Number 3, personally driven. So one of my mentors used to always say that behind every professional objective is a personal objective. If your prospect doesn't feel personally driven to solve the challenges that they've talked about, then chances are they're not going to be very driven to solve them. There has to be something in it for them. There has to be something that really affects their day-to-day life in order to make the change. So when a prospect is personally driven to solve a challenge, then you know you're dealing with a good sales buying signal. Again, going back to the marketing sales analogy, if you have a prospect, you sell marketing services, and your prospect is saying, we're not getting enough leads, and now I'm worried that I'm gonna have to start to lay people off, that's really stressful. Now you have someone who's demonstrated that they're personally driven. That is a good sales buying signal. Number 4, talks budget. There's really no better buying signal than when a prospect is really willing to discuss budget. If they're completely unwilling to have any budget conversation, that's a pretty bad sign in the sale. Now, of course, not in the first few minutes of the conversation, but as you get deeper into that discovery conversation, you've got to have some time to discuss budget. And if they're really willing to have a frank conversation about budget, now you know that you're dealing with someone who's at least pretty serious about solving the challenges. Because people vote with their wallets. People don't vote with their interest or even necessarily with their time, but they always vote with their wallets. If they're willing to allot or discuss some budget to solving a problem, now you know you're dealing with a really solid sales buying signal. Number 5, next steps willing. So have you ever been in a conversation with a prospect that seemed like it was going well, and then you go to schedule a next step and they're like, well, actually, you know what? I've got a lot going on. Can we just revisit this in a couple of weeks and just reach out to me then? That, again, is a pretty bad sign in the sales process. We want to make sure that we're always holding sales on track with clear next steps that are scheduled in the calendar. So if they're willing to schedule a next step and have it in the calendar, that's a good buying signal. Making sure that you're always holding sales together with those next steps is everything. And so you want to look for that sales buying signal that shows that they are willing to make that next step. If they're not willing to schedule a next step, it's a pretty clear sign that something is amiss. Number 6, asking good questions. I'm not talking about you asking good questions, that's important too, but I'm actually talking about them asking good questions. If you've gone through the sales process and you're finding that they're asking actually pretty good questions, that is a good sales buying signal, because it shows that they're interested and that they're engaged and that they actually have some interest in what you're doing. Now, of course, if they're just picking your brain and trying to get some free consulting, that's not necessarily a good sign. But especially during your presentation, if they're asking really good, thoughtful, insightful questions, that's a good sign, because we always want our presentation to focus on the questions that they have, not what we want to present, but on the things that they care about. So if they're asking those good questions, that means that they're engaged and that they're really thinking about how they could integrate this solution into their life. Number 7, want to see offering. I want to be clear that there are some prospects that come along that are just complete tire kickers, and they just want to see your demo, or they want to see your offering, or they want to know your prices. That's not necessarily a good buying signal. But if throughout your sales process, after you've given a presentation, if they want to see or engage with your offering, that is a good buying signal. What we're always looking for is that prospect who's really respectful about wanting to see the offering, but also isn't overly eager just to know our pricing or just to get a free proposal that they can then take and bring back to their other vendor. We want to find people, though, who are genuinely engaged and interested in seeing what we have to offer. That is a good sales buying signal. What you'll find is that with any of these buying signals, one of them alone is probably not that great. But when you start to see many of them throughout a sales process, that's when you start to get a sense that, you know what, this seems like it's a pretty solid opportunity. So there are 7 sales buying signals to look for. If you enjoyed this video, then I have an amazing free training on the step-by-step formula to closing more deals. Just click right here to get registered instantly. Seriously, just click right here. This is an in-depth training that will help you close more deals at higher prices, all while generating more meetings. Also, if you got some value, please like this video below on YouTube, and be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel by clicking my face that should be right about here to get access to a new video just like this one each week.